Now that we know how to set up an APA formatted paper, I want to teach you how to incorporate in-text citations and also to create your reference page so that you're not plagiarizing. So we're going to go over two examples of sources, online sources and book. And there's different ways to go ahead and set those up. So I'm going to walk you through each of those. But the most important thing to remember is for in-text citations, you need to always have the author's name, the year of publication, and a page number if there is one. Now for online sources, which is going to be the one we're going to cover first, there are no page numbers. So basically you just need to have the author's last name and the year of publication. So let's take a look at those. So in yellow, you see that I have biography.com. And so I'm going to show you what that source looks like. So we're talking about Trevor Noah, and it's his biography, created biography by biography.com. Excuse me, I got tongue-tied. Right away we see that it was published in 2019. Now, over here it does say the original date was 2015, but you always want to go with the updated date. So 2019. Now, so far I don't see an author. So if you don't see an author, sometimes they do put it at the end. And as we can see here, it says citation information, and biography.com wants us to use the author, biography.com editors. Okay. Again, there's no page number because it's an online source. So if I use information from that, I can set it up this way. According to biography.com editors, space, parentheses, 2019, parentheses, comma, and then I go ahead and do my quote in quotations. Because there's no page number, I will also include the final punctuation, which happens to be a period. So again, it's the author, the year, and then there's no date, so I'll just end it with a quotation. But let's say I don't want to use the author's name to introduce the quote. So I could set it up in this way. His life was difficult from the start because, born to a black Xhosa mother from South Africa and a white father from Switzerland, Trevor Noah broke the law the moment he was born. Notice I do not use the ending punctuation, but I do close it with the quotations, and I space and I put the author's name, and this one did not have a date, so it's N.D. That means no date. And again, I close it with parentheses, and then I put the final punctuation over here at the end. Okay, so let's take a look at this source because it was a different source, and I'll show you how I found the information. So this one's called Trevor Noah's Tragic Real Life Story, and right away I see the author's name, Barbara Pavone. I'm only interested right now in the last name, which was Pavone. And as I scrolled through, I did not see a date, so that's why I used N.D. No date. So these are the two ways you can set up online in-text citations. But let's say we're using a book, and Trevor Noah did write a book called Born a Crime. I'm going to show you the two ways we can set that up as well. So let's say we're not using Trevor Noah's name to introduce the quote, such as this one. He writes, "I was 9 years old when my mother threw me out of a moving car." Notice I introduced it, followed the introduction with a comma, and then started my quotes with the quotation marks, and ended with quotation marks, but I did not include the punctuation at the end because that's going to follow my in-text citation. So in parentheses, we would put the author's last name, which is Noah. The book was published in 2016, and I found it on page 5. And in APA, you will put P period, space, and then the page number, and close it out with the parentheses and follow it by a period. But if I do use the author's name to introduce it, this is how I'll set it up. So I would put Trevor Noah's last name, because he's the author, Noah, space, and in parentheses the publication year, 2016. One key thing to remember in APA is whenever you have the last name, it's always going to be followed by the publication year. They always go together. Okay? So Noah, space, parentheses 2016 parentheses explains, comma, and then I started with a quotation and I put the word for word quotation in there. And I end it with a quotation, but again, there's no punctuation because I'm going to put a space after the quotation marks. And in parentheses, I'll put the page number, P.66, end it with parentheses, and then here's my final punctuation. So APA is actually really simple when it comes to in-text citations. You just have to have those three key pieces of information: the author's last name, publication year, and a page if there is one. And again, pages are normally only for books, okay? So let's just review really quickly. Online format, author's last name, space, parentheses, publication year, parentheses, followed by a comma, space, in quotations, the direct quote with its final punctuation inside the quotations. But if I'm introducing the quote, it's introduction to the quote, comma, quotations, that's where I'll put my direct quote, end it with quotations with no final punctuation, a space, and in the parentheses I'll put author's last name, comma, publication year, end it with the parenthesis, period. For book format, it's very similar, except I would put the author's last name, space, publication within parentheses, followed by a comma, space, the direct quote in quotations with no final punctuation, a space, and in parentheses the page number. So it would be parentheses, P period space, page number, automatically followed by the closing parentheses, and then the final punctuation. Or an introduction to the quote, followed by a comma, space, the direct quote, no final punctuation. Again, there's a space after the quotation, within parentheses, author's last name, comma, publication year, comma, space, period, P period, space, and then you'd put the page number, followed by the closing parentheses and a period. So it does become easier the more you do it. If you ever have any questions on how to do an in-text citation, the best tool out there is Purdue OWL. So you would just go to Google and hit Purdue OWL APA and hit enter. And it's always the first one to pop up. And once you're in Purdue OWL for APA, and you can use it for MLA, it'll give you all the different ways to use in-text citations, so the basics and authors, because sometimes it can get a little complicated and it also changes sometimes. There's also sample papers in here and also all the information you'll need to create your reference page. And that's what I'm going to show you now. So whenever you're done with your paper, you're going to hit enter after the very last sentence. You're going to go to layout, to breaks, page, and insert a page break. The first thing you want to check is to make sure that your header has followed with the correct page number. So here we see our header with the correct page number. We also want to make sure that it says Times New Roman 12, and we want to center it because we're going to go ahead and write references. Okay, if you only have one reference, drop the S, but this one we have 3 separate references, and I'm going to show you how to set those up. So, APA is actually super simple with online sources. You just need, again, the author's full name. So let's go ahead and look at that. Let's look at our first one from biography.com editors. So we're just going to go ahead and put biography.com editors, just as it's set up. We just need the publication year, no other information. So even though it said 2019 from July 18th, we just need 2019. 2019, period. Then no italics, no bold, no underline, just plain text. We're going to put the title. So it's Trevor Noah Biography. Followed by a period, hit space, and then put retrieved from. This is very important, retrieved from, and you simply go to the address bar and you're going to copy the address. And you can put the address here. Now I want to show you something. Notice the link is not in Times New Roman and it's not double spaced. What you're going to want to do is when you paste it, there's a little clipboard that shows up with the paper down here and it says paste options. Click it and hit match destination formatting, and that will set it up double spaced in New Times Roman. But there's also a problem. Just like with other formatting options for like MLA or Chicago, you have to have what's called a hanging indent for your references. So let me show you how to do that. Go ahead and highlight the entry, go up to your line spacing options, and go to indentation. Make sure it says 0, 0, and then under special hit hanging. It should say 0.5. Make sure it says 0.5. If it says anything else, you can use the little arrows to go up or down. And hit OK. Now your entry is set up properly. It's double spaced in Times New Roman 12 and it has a hanging indent. Now we're done with that entry. We can move on to the second one. So just hit return or enter. And let's move on to the next one. So this one actually had the author's full name, Barbara Pavone. Now in APA, you'll write her last name, Pavone, comma, but then you'll just put the initials of her name. So let's say her name was Barbara Ann, you would put B period space, A period space, okay, after Pavone. So Barbara Pavone, again, we're just looking for the year. There was no year on this one. We looked, there was none. So within the parentheses, I'm going to put N.D period. And then we're going to follow that parentheses by a period. Once we've done that, now I just need the title, which was Trevor Noah's tragic real life story. Trevor. And you want to make sure that it is the exact title. But there's also another rule in APA. Only names are capitalized and the first letters of the title. So Trevor Noah's real or tragic real life story. So notice all the other words are lowercase. That is the rule in APA. Okay, the only reason Noah is capitalized is because that's his last name. We follow the title by a period, space, retrieved from, and again we're going to go ahead and copy it. And we're going to paste it here. Notice again our formatting did not stick, so we're going to go ahead and do matching destination formatting, and it's working now. It's double space, it is in Times New Roman, and it has a hanging indent. Now let's take a look at the book. So I did use a Kindle book for this, but let's pretend that it was the real life book. We see that the title is Trevor Noah, Born a Crime. When it's set up like this, we're going to use colons in between Trevor Noah and Born a Crime. So again, we'll put Noah because he's the author, but we're only going to put a T for Trevor. Now we need the publication year. To find that, we're going to go to the copyright page and it says 2016. So 2016 within parentheses followed by a period. Now since it's a book, in APA we italicize book names and we're going to put Trevor Noah, colon, Born a Crime. Now notice that the B after the colon is capitalized. That is also a rule in APA. You will only capitalize the first letter of the title and any letter that follows the colon. So Born a Crime. We're going to hit period and space and unitalicize. We're going to go back to regular font. because now we need to look for the location of the publisher. So let's go back to the copyright page, and I see that it was done in New York. So what you're going to do for APA is you will type out the whole city, New York, comma, followed by a space, and then you put the two-letter abbreviation for the state with no periods. So it would be NY, followed by a colon, space, and then the publisher. So let's take a look at the publisher. It says Penguin Random House LLC. So we'll put that in there. Penguin Random House LLC, followed by a period, and now my book reference is set up properly. But as you can see, it's not in alphabetical order, and the reference page has to be in alphabetical order. So what you'll do is you can go ahead and copy it, or highlight it actually, sorry. You're going to highlight your entries, and then you're going to go up here to where it says AZ with the down arrow, and it'll say sort. Click it. Do sort by paragraphs, text, and ascending, and you hit OK, and it alphabetizes it for you. So it makes sorting your references so much easier. So now we've set up our reference page, we have our proper in-text citations, and so now we are not plagiarizing. Good luck!